we were having a conversation.
We're recording, Andy?
Yeah.
First of all, welcome to Beyond I Do, everybody.
Well, I wasn't gonna ask
Ashley's...
that. Normally we have like a little lead up and all that kind of like fun, humorous talk. And so,
Yeah, but you said you were ready to go. Before we sat down, you were like, let's go. I run this show. I got something to talk about. And I was like, dang. And I was like, oh, what is it about? And then you were like, don't worry about it.
But I knew.
Okay, hey everybody, welcome to Beyond I Do. I don't even know what's happening. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you all listening, supporting. A couple episodes ago, we celebrated on Beyond the Letter, which is under the Beyond I Do. You know, Beyond I Do is under the Beyond the Letter umbrella. Yeah. And so we celebrated 100,000 subscribers. So shout out everybody. Thank you for being part of the family.
Gracias.
That's 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
That's awesome.
But, you know, we're on pray.com and Spotify and Apple. And so thank you, everybody who listens and follows along with us.
Gracias, everybody.
Here, yes.
Feliz
Adam
Navidad.
joined with my wife, Ashley. I don't even know what's going on with her right now.
Yes.
Hit.
Check. No.
Hey, Nancy. So we were talking about it prior to you walking in, and you may be like, well, you already talked about this, but I want your perspective. We probably have, but I want your perspective on it. Okay. So I had just seen something pop up on my Instagram, and it was somebody, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're already engaged. How long have they been seeing this person? And I was informed they've been seeing him for only 4 months.
Okay.
Met on Hinge.
Okay.
Got engaged.
Yeah. You saw this on Instagram?
Yeah.
Well, I think I just married a couple who that was their story, right?
No, they were 9 months.
9 months.
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah. Eric and Talia, which I want to have on the podcast because he was on a podcast a year ago when he had nobody, and we were talking about online dating.
Yes.
And then within a couple weeks, he met her on a dating app. Yeah. And I just married him this Saturday.
Yeah. Because,
so
but I'll tell you
it'd be good to have a follow-up with him and her.
It'd be great.
So what's the question?
The question is, is it too soon? Because let me give you context. Because Eric is older in his age.
That's not nice.
No, well,
Eric, she's sorry. You're young. You're young.
You're young, handsome. Congratulations. Because he didn't even want to tell his age. But depending on age, is there ever a too soon to get engaged? Like the individual that I know is, I think in her, like literally just turned 30. And in 4 months, just off a Hinge. Like I personally think, this is just me, that if you meet someone on Hinge, on dating app, I think there has to be a time frame to get to know somebody.
I don't know what Hinge is.
Hinge is dating website. Okay. It's a dating website. Okay. So I think though,
it's not like a sleep around website.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I'm not on it. But I think Hinge is the dating
I know
one.
You're not. I hope you're not.
I know the whole details.
You got girlfriends. I mean, even single like guys I pastor, we don't talk about this.
Yeah,
like,
but I'm asking you. Okay, like, so if you were to go, okay.
We talk about dating, but I'm not like, bro, what's up with your dating profile? Girls talk about that stuff.
How many clicks do you get? Swipes?
How many swipies do you get?
You see, I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
So like to me, if there was a dating website and you meet somebody on a dating website, I feel like you should at least date this person.
Why are you saying website? What if you meet someone at Starbucks? You're okay with them only dating them 4 months if they meet them at Starbucks? No. Okay, so then just say dating. Just dating. Okay.
Yeah. And I think it should be longer than 6 months.
Well, let me say that. My thought
dependent on age. I feel like if
honestly, I don't care what age is. I think it's more of, I think there's a degree of, there's always a kind of market standard approach. And then I think there are exceptions. So, and that goes for almost anything. This is how things probably should predominantly be done because the human experience is predominantly this way. And then there's but there are exceptions, you know, and I think that, you know, I think that I think the overall broadest wisdom should be that when you're dating someone before you get married, you should see them through all 4 seasons, summer, winter, fall, spring. And through all 4 seasons, you hopefully in a year will be able to see their temperament, how they talk to their family, how they talk to their parents, how their friendships are, how they are towards their friendships when their friendships aren't in the room, how they are with money. It's about 12 months. You could see a lot of what you would need to see in order to make that decision. So all in all, can you make a judgment call of all those things in 4 months or even 3 months? No, you can't. Are there exceptions? Yes, I think there are exceptions. I think there are exceptions that if there's a level of, one person may call it kismet, another person would call it, God's, really hand and instruction in the relationship. There could be, such a connect, such an awareness, a person, season of life that you're in. Yeah. Should anyone in their early mid-20s, even maybe late 20s, make that decision so soon? Probably not. Your brain's still developing till you're 25. And so you should have a lot of wisdom surrounded around that. But in theory, there isn't a lot of time between 4 months, 5 months, and 12 months. Like, it's not a huge time. Like, secrets could still be hidden. Life can be,
oh yeah,
there's still a lot that could go wrong. So in general, and even I've even seen a recent Christian video post because someone was talking about not living with someone, and even Christians, like hundreds, majority were Christians because it was a Christian post. Mm-hmm. Were saying, I think you need to live with someone before you marry and ask them to marry you, so that you can, make sure you guys click. And then most of them said, I think you should have sex before. And these were all Christians. And so, number one, we live in a pretty stupid age. And number two,
you'll have to clean this.
And here's why I say this, because you guys all got me on one today, because the last podcast with Will was one that made me mad too. And so those type of opinions, because they're people who claim to be a Jesus follower and someone who lives by God's word, and they don't use God's word. Yeah. It's one thing just to be like, I'm a Christian, I don't agree with God. At least put it out there and wait for the lightning to strike. I mean, at least go as far as that. But don't be like, oh, I'm a Christian and here's what I think is wise to do. Like, no, you can't do that. You can't say that, you're literally saying, I think you should move in. And the Bible literally says that when you leave your mother and father and go into one home and join this woman, you are to be one flesh. Literally, God, in his eyes, he joined you as one. And then you're saying, I think you should test it and try it out. And then if you don't like it, you guys should not move, should stop sleeping together and should not be moving in. And you guys should go to church together and read your Bible. It's like, make up your mind.
Yeah.
And so I'm more akin to someone getting married in 4 months if they're going to be committed to Christ in this whole thing.
Yeah. Because
here's what I can guarantee. Whether you date for 4 months, 12 months, or 12 years, your partner is going to annoy you. There's going to be days that you don't want to like your partner, your spouse. There's going to be days that they drive you nuts. There's going to be days that you don't like the way they're parenting. There's going to be days the way you don't like talking to them. And that is a mental commitment of faith and heart that you have to make, that time is not going to. Now, time can show you whether that person's legitimate or not, but it's not gonna join you with that person in a way that you guys are so in love and so perfected together that you'll never have any issues ever again marrying them. No time is gonna solve that. Yeah, you get on my nerves. Like right now, you're on my nerves. So,
well, I mean, I totally get that. I get that perspective as far as yeah, there is no time because there's still, we've been married 9 years and you get on my nerves a lot. So, but it's all saying, what are you willing to persevere through? And I think knowing you prior to us getting together, I think one of the things that I knew is that you were committed. You had been in a 4-year relationship. So there wasn't anything to where if I were to look at you, I knew you well enough to say he was able to persevere through 4 years of dating. It wasn't like, oh, you were dating a month, 6 months, and then breaking up, month here, 2 months, you know what I mean? So I think even when you go into that silly way of oh yeah, test out the waters, you're not committed to anything.
Yeah.
You're allowing yourself to just be like, oh, okay, if this works out, if not, I'll try something new. And I think that's what we have issues with when it comes to dating and relationships, that no one's really committed or they don't want to make the commitment because it's better to that's why I said, just don't date. Just do whatever you want to do. Just be free. Don't date.
But these people, they're claiming they're looking for a spouse. That's the thing.
But at the end of the day,
that's their
like
argument.
you said, but
their
that's what you
argument is
said.
like they want to marry someone.
Yeah, no, you want to marry someone, but you want to test out the waters and then say, okay, you pissed me off one day, or you made me mad one day, and we're living together. Although there's not a ring, I want you out of my house. It's like, okay, then you're not gonna like anyone at all the time. Like, if you have a family, I don't like my sister all the time, but yet we still get along. I don't kick her out of my life in the sense of like, I don't want to be talking to you anymore because you took my hairbrush or you took my clothes and you didn't wash them and bring it back. No, you get over it. The same way that there are certain things within marriage and relationships, you get over it and realize, okay, there's a new day. But Andy made a great point too, or Andy had asked a question as well along the lines of that.
Angelino?
Yeah, he was asking basically if you've had a friend that you've known of the different sex for a long time, could you technically get married or get engaged sooner because you've known them for a couple years, you date, and like he's like, is it okay to just get engaged because you've known this person? So let's just say you and I were best friends for 3 years, and all of a sudden we're like, hey, let's see if this thing works. And then we get engaged 2 months after dating, 6 months after dating. He's like, is that weird? And I was like, no, you know the person.
Yeah. But I mean, even in the biblical days, it was a father who said, hey, can your daughter have children? My son needs someone. Like, there's only 4 other people their age in the whole town.
Yeah.
And like, let's negotiate this and their kids will maybe meet once, you know? So, you know, like every culture has their own, you know, do's and don'ts. So I think the question is, what's more appropriate? See, it's always this podcast. Someone just brought in food. Who has food? Is it Alizé? And Nancy had a fry in her mouth. It's never beyond the letter. It's always beyond I do that Nancy and Alizé start their own little kitchen over there in the corner.
We hit the greasy bag. I said, Alizé, abort mission.
Go ahead, eat, y'all. Enjoy yourself. Yeah, I mean, every culture has their, like, some cultures, it's just like divorce isn't an option. And you know, that comes with its own kind of issues. But every culture has its own climate. In our culture, we're divorce hungry, we're breakup heavy, we're even in the church. So, you know, there is a certain level more of homework you do have to do in the dating phase to make sure that this person is upright character. Mm-hmm. But does it also mean that how far do you take that? Do you take that all the way down to the marriage bed and take that to every experience? And the short answer is no. Like, you're making a judgment call of character. And so can you make a judgment call of character in 4 months or 5 months? In theory, yes. People are making judgment calls of character in 3 job interviews and hoping for the best. And so, you know, like, and does it go right every time? No, it sometimes goes wrong, and anyone can lie in an interview. Yeah. Same way in the dating experience. Does it go right all the time? No, people can lie in the dating phase. The theory is it's harder to keep up a lie over a year or 2 than it is, you know, in 4 months. Mm-hmm. And so that's the theory of why are you waiting for 4 seasons? You're waiting, or even longer. You know, you and I technically dated for 2 years, even though I proposed after a year. But during our engagement period, you or I could still break it off. So it was technically still a 24-month and a 8-season structure that there were things about you I didn't like, but I was willing to roll the dice and see how this thing played out. And it's played out great, splendidly. What is this, a splendid right here? It's a spindrift. I thought it said splendidly. It's turned out splendidly.
I'm glad you kind of stuttered after all of that. It was splendidly.
No, but it has. It's been amazing, but we've talked about this before. There is still, at the end of the day, a roll of the dice. I didn't need to live with you to discover whether this was going to be the right thing. I didn't need to have all these sexual exploitations with you to make sure that you fulfill me sexually and all that kind of stuff. And even when we got married, you and I had a lot of intimacy issues. But everyone, when you get married, you're going to have a lot of different issues and different, if you're not having intimacy issues, you may have financial issues. If you don't have financial issues, you may have family issues, or you may just have, sorted bad luck. You got you got them all, line up. And in some ways, you and I have had all of them at some point in our marriage. But the main thing that I personally looked for as a Christian man is the woman I'm going to marry, is she more submitted to God than she is to anyone else? Is she sensitive to God's guidance in her life? Because if I could just boil it down into that thing, then in any season that you and I may face struggle or even own personal conflict, if I know that your love for God is true and you've actually been converted and given your life to Christ, then I know that if the Holy Spirit's at work in your life, I can allow the Holy Spirit to intercede for me. And there have been many times I've had to say, Lord, this woman is not listening to me and I need you. And he's done it. He's done it. He's not done some things yet, but there's probably a reason for that I'll find out in heaven.
Yeah, it's probably for you. That's why. It's probably he wants you.
Yeah, he always wants to give me. You always need a thorn in the flesh to keep you humble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
There's a video that I kind of want to talk about because it's one that actually makes you really mad. Yeah, it's her attitude that I want to show because and they're engaged. They're engaged. And so just her attitude behind this and what she does. Ooh, would have sent me. Would have sent me. Did you get it?
Ashley didn't prepare for this. She says she was in charge on this episode, and then
I
emailed him links in preparation for this.
Oh, well, you have one? Which one is it? Then let's see his. If his is so good.
Mine was in theme of what we were talking about. It's it's a girl who's Andy could play.
Okay, play his.
You weren't prepared.
I'm gonna add it right.
Okay, thank you. Let's play his.
I don't know what Bible you're reading, but my Bible says that husbands should love their wives like Christ loved the church and sacrifice for them in that way. And I get it. We're not married. We're just getting to know each other. However, you don't even know how to plan a proper date. And you expect me to believe that you're going to know how to love me like Christ loved the church? No.
I think I sent that one to you because that was a really good one.
Yeah, and it says what people reposted it.
It was my sister.
Yeah, your sister reposted it.
Of course.
But in theme of you saying all 4 months or whatever, to me, those are the things that you're weighing during that time. Dating is not just a season where you're saying, do I click with this person? It's, can I see myself spending the rest of my life with this person? And you cannot measure how they're going to be at 50, 60, 70, but there are breadcrumbs that you can see in how responsible they are and how much responsibility they take, even in terms of loving you, because those efforts is an act of love. And so, she makes this statement that I'm sure, some people are like, well, that's dumb. And, and other people are obviously like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, but everything's happening in the comments. But there is value in seeing both on both sides with a woman and with a man. They both have different individual things that you're looking for in the dating experience to make that judgment call to say, hey, am I going to continue to see this person that could lead towards something?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, her statement's true. As Christ loved the church, as a husband should love his wife. I think it just goes into the same context, too, is that person a nice person? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. There was never a point in time, regardless of when we were dating, that I didn't think the way that you showed your love towards me, you did it with your friends. Mm-hmm. So you did it with the people that were around you. So it was being mindful and being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the relationship to say, okay, he cares about me, but he doesn't just care about me, he cares about everything else. So you're not taking one scripture and just saying and applying it to the dating life. You're applying this all over your life, and you're seeing it bleed across the board to where I think that, when you said, people are nitpicking on what scriptures they want to take out of the Bible. And it's you have to take the Bible in its entirety. You can't just pick what you like and apply it in your life. You have to be able to love your neighbor. Mm-hmm. as you love yourself. You have to love your wife as Christ loved the church. You have to be submissive, as it states in the Bible. There are things, if you are wanting to be that Christ follower, if you're wanting to be the Proverbs 31 woman, if you're wanting God to bless you, you have to honor his word. Mm-hmm. And that's not just in dating life. That's in your everyday life of, if you want to see God flourish in the areas of where you need him to flourish, obey his word.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. So I think when a lot of people are like, well, God's not sending me this, sometimes it's a reflection of where's my disobedience and my unalignment with God, where he's trying to get me to wake up, to say, if you start aligning yourself in this area, I'll take care of that area that I know the desires of her. I'm going to take care of that area, but I need you to focus on this area that I have highlighted for you. And that is like, if you can't even love your neighbor or show grace or show forgiveness, why would I send you a spouse that's all it's going to be? If you can't even do it with your friends, if you can't even repent with your friends, if you can't ask for forgiveness or show forgiveness, you don't think that's not going to happen in your relationship? Yeah. So I think it honestly is, God is more concerned about you as an individual than he is concerned about who you are going to marry. He is concerned about your faith and you making it to what he has called you to do, and that is to eternal glory. So I think that sometimes, like you said, where you had Mother Strong tell you, once you stop searching and you become content in me, I will give you what you desire. I know what you desire, Adam, but there are certain things where if you're not content in me, do I give you contentment all the time? I'm asking you the question. Exactly.
I'm content, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, although like relationships are great and being married is amazing, but until you truly look at like I've said it multiple times, look yourself in the mirror and ask God, how am I doing as a person? How am I doing as a faithful Christ follower? Am I abiding in your word? Am I disciplined? Am I obedient? Am I humble? Am I kind? And having a reflection of that. And if there is no, and I'm not saying I was perfect prior to me meeting you, because I had some big flaws that I needed to get over. But it was one of those where, but it came to a point where I told God, I'm done leading. I need you to lead my life. And I pray that the next person you put in my life will lead me.
Yeah, because relatively early on when we were dating, you said like, you had almost every guy you dated identified as a Christian, but you would be like, hey, you want to come to church? Or, hey, you know,
want
like,
to read your Bible? Hey, you want to do a Bible study? Hey, do you want to do any of these things? And clearly that wasn't meant to be. So. Yeah.
And, you know, for me, I was looking for something. For you, it was, you were leading in the relationship, every relationship you were in, and you were, probably in some way somewhat like coddling in the relationship and stuff like that. And so you got to a place where you're like, hey, I'm not going to do that anymore. And then I got to a place that was like, hey, I'm not going to make this big effort to force something to happen anymore. Yeah. Then at the same time, you know, I think in what she's saying, it goes on both sides for individuals, not only dating, but let's just say I'm a person who's recently become a Christian. I'm in a relationship, in a marriage or whatever it may be. And it's like, what steps should I be taking to be more of a man or a woman of God? Well, you know, a lot of Paul's statements of what he's talking about in relationship, or even what she quoted, it's with this emphasis that says, you know, men are created one way, women are created another way. Now, there may be some overlap sometimes in personality and stuff like that, but overall, you know, men and women are very different, and they're both susceptible to very different things that would make them a negative partner in a marriage. And so his statement of, husbands, you need to love your wives like Christ loves the church, is because God has given the husband the spiritual headship that operates the authority, which means if I have authority, it means can be prone to abuse in the authority, not physical or emotional, but just abuse in leadership, which says, not only can I abuse in leadership, if I'm the person who can make the call, I can also become lazy. And so even going back to the fall, The decree to Adam was, hey, hard work is going to be hard. It's going to create sweat. Used to be easy for you, but because of the fall, now your flesh is going to want to be lazy,
right,
and rely on everyone else's laurels and even God's laurels. But now you have to sweat and you have to work. And then what does he say to the wife? Like, childbirth, there's going to be pain. In other words, not just childbirth, but the child rearing experience is going to be quite the experience for you,
Jesus.
And so it's this idea. And then you go deeper into scripture and you say, okay, for the man, what does he struggle with? He struggles with, pride, arrogance, abuse of power, desire potentially to maybe be lazy. Mm-hmm. Or if he's not lazy and he overworks, he can mismanage priorities, not love his wife, the Bible says don't bring your children and prone them to anger. And so, and then what is it for the wife? Well, for the wife, you read the New Testament. For women, it's, hey, watch the slander out of your mouth. If you have women in your church who are gossiping from house to house, go and check it. So it's like women are gossiping. Women are prone to, fighting and arguing their words. That's why there's this idea that Paul says, live into respect and submission to your husband. In other words, if you operate under authority, then you can have authority. But if you don't, and then for the man, it's don't abuse your authority. And so in the dating experience, and also there's this struggle that if a woman's living in her flesh, it's this, like you said, it was this desire to lead. If you don't lead, then I'll lead. Mm-hmm. And so in the dating experience, you're basically trying to evaluate all that you can outside of actually being married and actually having to submit to each other and respect each other and honor that way. And so for the man, you're saying, how does he handle his job? How does he treat people if he's in any type of position of authority? How does he treat people who are under him? How's his own relationship with God? Does he pursue a relationship with God, or any man who doesn't pursue a relationship with God, he thinks he's God. And so if you have no submission to God, then more than likely you've built yourself up to something, or you have so much emptiness that you're lazy and you've just given up, and you still let your parents take care of you, and you're 40 and 50 and you're still looking at your parents for everything. And so that's like, you look at that person like, hey, I'll tell you right now, if you marry that person, there's going to be some difficulty. And then it's like with a girl you're dating, it's like, okay, how does she talk about her friends when her friends are in the room? How does she handle if she's wrong? Does she ever say she's wrong? How is she compassionate? Is there a mother in her? Is there care in her? How does she handle conflict? Does she love conflict? Does she want it every day, everywhere? How does she talk about other people? Is it very demeaning? And then like, as you start to measure these things, or you've become a Christian, you also have to address your own shortcomings to be like, hey, I have to work on this. Mm-hmm. I can't be the boss every day of my life where I'm the boss to God, and I have to live in submission to God, and so there's all these things that you can evaluate. So for me in the dating experience, seeing if a guy can plan a date, it may not sound like a big deal, but it is, because there's going to be a day where you're married and you're going to be a decade, 2 decades into it. And if you have spent every year, every time doing all the effort for him and he's kicked his feet up, and he's like, I've never had to, like, you've loved me even when I, didn't engage you or whatever. Yeah. It's just like, it'll meet its time at some point. And then you'll be like, oh, how'd we get here? Well, I could tell you how you got here.
Right.
You kept, as the woman, you kept pursuing everything, which shouldn't be the case. There could be mutual pursuit. That's not to say that a girl can't plan a date for her guy she's dating or whatever. Yeah. Like, yeah, by all means. But there's certain things you should be looking for.
Should she pay for it?
I think she can. I don't think it matters, I think he has to show you. I think it's less about what's actually done in dating, and it's more about like, what is this going to be like if we really click and we get married? And so, like, there's times you pay for our DoorDash. So I'm not like, oh, I'm the man of the house. It's like, but within me is the capacity that if tomorrow you had to fully put your attention in our sons, in your head, like, there's no worry that Adam's not going to do whatever it takes to make sure this family's okay.
Right.
And I think that's what you're hoping for. So for her to be like, oh, I'm taking you on a date, and as my boyfriend, I'm a dog, like I'm gonna get you a jacket, and I'm gonna appreciate you. I'm gonna get you a meal. I'm gonna get you new shoes. That's not effeminate for the man.
Yeah.
That's not like, oh, well, I don't need my girl to take care of me like that. It's like, now if she's doing that every day, and you like you just sitting there and you play video games all day every day, and you don't like, you're not reciprocating, then that's cautious.
Yeah.
But it's like when you and I were dating, 90% of the time I'm taking you out. So if it was, like, I don't think there's any set standard other than you're evaluating the relationship. Yeah. Can this relationship be deeper in the long run when all of this stuff either no longer happens, or it all becomes somewhat mundane, regular? Can we still find joy in each other? Can we still live a life together even when we're not having, when you're dating, you're having date nights 2-3 days a week. Then you get married, you meet some couples who don't have 2 date nights a year, and it's like, are you going to fight for that stuff? That's the stuff you're kind of more so looking for and evaluating. Is there an attention to the relationship?
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, just because off of the TikTok and her saying being able to date night and whatnot, I think that I think that's great. Even the statement that you made, like, it doesn't matter who pays as long as the intentionality is behind it from him. And I think that just goes across not only the dating, but I think that's just over the communication. Because then I would ask this, like, because at that point, because I remember, like, with you and I dating, you always text me early in the morning. You'd be like, good morning. Mm-hmm. Is that there was intentionality there. But because we live in the society we live in, and it's kind of skewed, should it go both and, or should the man always reach out, in the sense? Like, you go on a date and then let's just say he doesn't text good morning or he says good morning the next day, and then maybe the day after you don't hear from him all day, and then the next day you don't hear from him, and then like 2 days after you hear from him. Do you think that the man is waiting to see, like, hey, is she interested as well? She should respond, or should the intentionality still always come from the man as far as being both and of interested? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I'm asking?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you text me majority of the mornings. And there'd be sometimes I would wake up earlier because I worked night graveyards. I'd be like, hey, good night. And then you'd be like, 4 hours later, good morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So...
Well, I think that you have to, I think what happens is when you understand that you both are bought in, and there was a certain point where I told you, hey, I'm bought into this relationship, I want to see where it goes. I think when that happens, you can start measuring a person's character and their dating. Now, you meet on Hinge and you go on a first date. Should the guy be texting you the next day? Not necessarily, not if he's not interested, and vice versa, right? Yeah. So, and even if he is interested, like, to what degree was he interested, and to what degree are they doing this? So I think having a conversation of like, oh, what are you looking for? If they was like, oh, well, I'm just
looking for a good time.
Not even looking for a good time. It's just I'm hanging out with people and I'm seeing if something ever clicks. Okay, that's fair enough. If it's, oh no, I'm going out with one person at a time and I'm seeing where it goes, and like, I want to see where this goes. Like, okay, well, then hopefully he should show some sort of interest. But if he's like, and even her, if they're like, yeah, I might have a couple dates this week because I've been single for 10 years. I'm trying to find someone. I live in a big city. Yeah. It's like, well, you just set your expectation, but also don't weight it heavy to be like, oh, well, he texts me back. I mean, he texts me 5 days after. Yeah. I don't think that there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's some type of Christian thing that's like, hey, you need to like, if you go out on a date, next day you need to tell her thank you. I don't think that's, my view on that isn't super rigid. But I think once you feel like, man, I might really connect with this person, I want to see where it goes, well, then you should ramp up what we would say, a very traditional state, courting. It's like, then you should start the courting experience, that is hopefully going to go somewhere. And then if it doesn't, put the nix on it and move on, Yeah. Like, but Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm asking because I mean the only person I'm talking about right now, and she'd probably be mad if I mentioned it, is my sister, because that would she'd be talking or go on a date with somebody and then like message her the next day, and then 2 days didn't hear from her, 3 days, and then hey, haven't talked to you, or hey, how you been? And it's like, well, what?
Yeah, but a date I mean, my view on it would be a date doesn't equal dating.
No, a date doesn't equal dating, but like he messages her the next day and the next day, and then like 3 days goes, like fully invested, fully texting, 2 days straight, and then just stops.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he has a life and a job, and vice versa.
Yeah, well,
you know, like,
obviously, but like.
So, thing in time, listen.
But is it in the sense of like you have those, like be adult enough, if you guys are adults, have a conversation, be like, hey, this is what I like, what I don't like, and this is, I want to.
Why though? It's so early. You don't know. Like.
I mean, we talked for 2 weeks and you go, I don't date to date.
Yeah, because number one, I didn't have like all these prospects that I was like weighing through, and I also knew that when I would start to date someone, I would do it with a lot of intentionality. But not every guy is going to have that level of conviction that goes like, this is something a guy at the time could hold working a job, their family, and potentially dating someone all at the equal playing field. It's like, you know, like they're not. Like, oh, I go out on a couple dates with a girl and I'm immediately smitten. Now, if he was like, no, I'm committed to you, I want to see where this goes, well, then I think feedback would be, well, you need to ramp up your communication. But if it's not at that level yet, and it's like, oh, we went on 3 dates, 2 dates, we're still seeing where it goes. He text you in a week. Like, he's got a life. What does it matter? I don't think that should be a nix, even if it was on the other foot and it was a girl. I don't think that should be an automatic, like, well, they're not interested in me. It's like, no, not enough time has passed for them to even have interest in you fully, you know, potentially. And the greater, you know, experiences that person has, they're going to weigh more and more against, you know, am I really connecting with this person? You know?
Yeah.
So could it show like a negative character flaw? Yes, but I don't think it's automatic. I don't think it's like you shouldn't do that. Like if you like a girl, you need to be talking to her every day. No, I don't think when you're entry level dating.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my thoughts just go all over just because I have a couple girlfriends that I know that have dated, and they've dated guys for 9 months, and then all of a sudden after 9 months, the guy's like, all right, I'm kind of over it, or I'm done, and then
yeah, but
6 months, or not even 6, but 4 months later, dating somebody else completely different and fully invested, and like, oh, I'm ready to marry this girl.
Yeah, I don't know what people you're talking about, but I know 9 times out of 10 with those situations, they're staying the night over at each other's house, they're having sex together, they're, you know, the kitchen's open and everything's on the table. So if that's the case, don't all of a sudden as a woman act like you have all this value when, and you would say, well, then he wouldn't even give me the time of day if I valued my body that way. Okay, then you would have filtered him very fast if that was it.
Even if they went to the same thing after that person, and then they're full on dating, doing the same exact thing that they were doing with them. But that's
my point. But that's who they are.
Right. But then
that's their character. You want to. That's an easy filter.
No, 100%.
As a woman, if you want an easy filter to not waste your time with a guy, don't sleep with him. Be a person of a biblical character and be like, if you're a Christian, be like, hey, I've lived a life in the past. I don't do this till I'm married.
The argument too of the other podcast that you had seen, or the conversation of like Christians are saying, yeah, test it out, and then the 6 to 9 months, and then they're like, oh yeah, I do want to be with you, and then out of the blue they don't, or like they want to be, this isn't, oh yeah, we're gonna get married, blah 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 blah, and then out of the blue a month later they don't. But they tested the car, they enjoyed the car.
Because it doesn't work. Oh. It doesn't work. That's my point.
Right. No, so I know it does.
So if you're a girl or a guy, and you don't want to be hurt to a degree that you're going to be hurt, don't move in together. No. Don't start sleeping together. You're doing everything married people do, and then you're surprised in 4 months that he's smitten with someone else. Well, you know, there's a million reasons why he could be more smitten with someone else, or her. Like I know guys who say, and the girl has gone and been with a guy, and all of a sudden that was my story. I was with someone 4 years. She kept saying, I want to wait to get married, want to get to married. She meets a guy, and then in 9 months, they're married. Like, what is that? I don't know. I don't have an answer for it, but I do know, like, thank God that, we did have boundaries in our relationship, so because it hurt a lot less, and so a lot of people are getting hurt because they are testing the car. One person's falling in love with the car sooner than the other person's falling in love with the car. Where for me and you and I, as best as we could, and the closer we got to actually being married, it got harder because we were in love and all that. But like, that whole actual dating experience, we never hung out past 10 o'clock. 90% of the time we were in groups. We fought to keep ourselves pure. Why? Because if this didn't work, it's going to hurt a lot less than if I'm spiritually, we're doing everything. We're Bible studying, we're having sex together, we're blah, 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 we're sleeping over. Well, yeah, if you end up liking another guy or I end up liking another girl, it's going to hurt both of us really bad because we built a whole sandwich together, and I'm taking the sandwich home away, like to my own house, rather than going like, well, I only ever gave him lettuce. Like he never got the meat. He never got the bread. Yeah. We good. Like it is what it is. You're not going to hurt me like that. So I think, and they say, oh, well, it's hard to find someone like that. Yeah, it is true. I wish there was an easier way to just be like, to be like, no, they're out there. Like, no, I recognize it's hard. Like,
no, that was the statement that I was going to make is like, it is hard out here it is hard out here for the women in the dating world, and I'm sure the men as well. But it's just, I think we're still from the top of the year when we had the conversation with Eric and Hallie. I think that obviously Eric was able to find his wife. It's just hard to figure out or pinpoint on what is everyone's desire. But what I'm realizing or recognizing is a lot of people are just getting married later in life. Like the times are being later and later and later. Like, I mean, looking at our parents, the boomers, they got married at 19 and 20. Yeah. Now the earliest age is what, 35, 36?
Yeah. Yeah, something, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the statistic is, but you get married later. But, I think there's a lot of...
do you think it's because of obviously people just having expectations, being too picky?
I think our world right now is far more secular than it was for our parents. And so even though in our parents' age, people, not everyone may have been Christian, but everyone by and large would have said it's a good thing to have a family. It's a good thing to get married. It's a good thing. That's an innate thing that God has put inside of us to be fruitful and multiply. Well, we live in a current cultural structure that says that's like number 9 on the totem pole. There's college, job, career, and a lot of these things are wisdom, but it's a house that's impossible to get, a car that's impossible to finance, home loans or school loans that are impossible to pay off. So you take all of that, and I believe we live in a culture where everyone is slave to the lender. So everybody's subject to some type of credit, something. And then you add on top of that, like, oh, am I ready to get married? Do I want to get married? And then I meet someone and they're like, I'm just trying to escape all this junk, so I'm just trying to have fun or whatever it is. So we live in a secular age where this is not important until someone gets older. And the moment you start getting older, you don't feel like Superman anymore. And when you don't feel like Superman anymore, you ask yourself, what really matters? Well, what really matters is coming home to someone that loves me and I love, and to children that I see myself in, that look like me, that I could raise, and I'm fulfilled by building them up. Yeah. When do you realize that? Right now? A little later. So because culture doesn't tell you that. For our parents, even at 15, it was like, as a woman, it was like, you're going to be a great mom, blah, blah, blah. Like, you wouldn't tell a 15-year-old that now. You would even be scared to tell a 25-year-old you're going to be a great mom one day. I even do weddings. And I feel people get scared to even say, you guys are going to have a beautiful family one day, because there's an idea that they're rushing marriage into children. And so I've been doing weddings for over 10 years. 10 years when I started, it was always like, you guys are going to be great parents. There's this idea like you're going to get married and relatively soon you're going to have children and start a family. Now I hear the opposite, parents looking at their kids. You better not have kids right away. And now there's some wisdom to that, and you should wait a year or two to have kids. But there's this idea that's like, all of this stuff is a burden. It's like this marriage thing's a burden. Having children's a burden. And I'm even doing weddings and I'm like half of these speeches are like making this marriage sound terrible. And then everyone's like totally dissuading them from having children. Yeah. And so it's like, what are we even doing here?
Right.
But this is the way God created us, and everyone's default, for the most part, there are exceptions, but everyone's default is to be married to one person and start a family with them. And here we are, even at weddings, thinking that it's bad to say, have fun having children.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll end on this because I do have a question for you. Do you think, and this is sidebar from the conversation, but it's talking about someone that is engaged or dating, do you think it's wise, knowing that they're going to be with this person, knowing that they're going to marry this person, do you think it's wise that they've had this conversation that they believe that they need to pay off student debt before they get married? Or do you think it really matters between the marriage, the wedding date? They want to set a wedding date, but they want to pay off student loan.
I mean, statistically, the more debt you go into marriage, specifically if it's over, if it's over $30,000, you have a higher percentage of divorce to manage your finances because the financial burden, especially if you add kids to it. So yes, I would say if that was I don't think that's like a command. Hey, anyone before you get married, pay off your student loans. But if a person felt like that was their conviction, I would say, hey, that's a very honorable conviction. Sometimes we create convictions because we're immature, and so that's what I would decide is like, are you is there a conviction here because like you're bad with money and you feel like it's like it's some odd, or is this truly like you have seen family get into trouble, like you have this lived experience where like you've seen how much debt sucks on people's life that you're just like, I don't want that to be me. If that's it, I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that speaks to their character, hopefully, that they'll have in the long run, that says that, I mean, that's the type of person more than likely that retires like with a lot of money. Yeah. Because if they can do that, if they could prolong something they're excited about to pay off student loan debt, the potential is they could be in their 70s balling you both, that could reveal a very positive character trait. So I think there's more information in there, but I think it go one way or the other. But I wouldn't tell him like, dude, you're dumb. It's just an $800 payment or $1,200. I'd be like, man, that's smart. I get that. Yeah. What's the timeline? When you going to be done? Oh, I don't know. Okay, no. Yeah. We can't do that. Year and a half, are you done? Yeah, I'm doing double payments in 12 months. I'm done. Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, cool. Or in a year and a half. Yeah. I get that. Okay. And I've sat with a couple before who, he was like, I want to get engaged and marry now. She doesn't want to, until she's done with her master's. And then I said, well, maybe you guys discuss and you find a happy medium. Maybe when she starts her master's, you guys get engaged so that there's a new layer to your season. And then when she set, the wedding the month after she graduates, see if she's open to that. Yeah. Because I get it. Her fear is, and her fear was like, I come from this tradition that you get married and you have children right away. Yeah. And there's this fear that if I get married, I won't finish my master's, and this is important to me. And I was like, yeah, you should respect that about her. She has a desire to accomplish something. That's someone that has the potential to be a very character-driven person that when they give you their word, they're going to commit. So don't demonize that. Find something that works for you guys and celebrate that there's conviction there. So I feel like a lot of times we write off relationships because it's not happening the way we want it to, rather than seeing potential beauty about that person's character in that what we think is a quirk about them. Yeah. But, it could be a good thing. Yeah. No,
that's good.
I don't know.
Good insight.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I love that.
Andy, were you listening to any of that?
I was, yes.
For what are you, 19?
19.
someone 19, how did any of that stuff sit with you? We got, everyone has just slowly left the room. So now I'm here with just Andy.
I think Ella's
At
behind the
19.
curtain eating.
Oh, is she? Is she grubbing? How did any of that stuff land with you as a 19-year-old who's obviously not married? You got a girlfriend?
Yeah, no, I do not.
No girlfriend, not married,
But you
in
gave
school.
a question that
like,
made me wonder.
Okay, no, I don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, I feel like I always tell like my parents, my friends, like I listen to this podcast, I feel so stupid, just sitting in it with all the advice. But, I mean, for me, yeah. What we were just talking about, like with convictions, like sometimes I feel like I have the conviction to like, you know, I want to save money or I want to, you know, build up my life for marriage, and I want to like focus on my job, and I'm trying to like draw all my attention from anything else other than, you know, just preparing myself for that, whether spiritually, financially. And it's like, do I have this conviction because like I know that I'm still learning how to be good with money, and I kind of suck with money right now, or because there have been times where I've felt just completely lost because I've been without God, or because, you know, I've seen what it can do, like whether with my parents with debt, or people that aren't following God and their marriages fall apart. So I was just kind of thinking about that right now as you guys were talking. Like, is it more so that I've seen it before with my parents, like financially or spiritually with other people, or is it just because my own personal convictions, like, you know, I'm bad with money or I'm trying to build up that skill?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just something right now that I'm taking is like, I want to just really seek God out for like, where am I being like too hard on myself with like, I need to wait for this to happen before I pursue a relationship, or I just need to examine like what my convictions are, what I can let go of, and what I'm holding on too tightly to. So that's just what I'm processing through what you guys were talking about.
I love that.
That's good, man. Yeah. I just wanted to hear how it landed on your ears, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, because even what you're talking about, yeah, most of the time we see, or we don't want to do things, we don't want things to happen, and you were saying your convictions are based off of what we've seen around us or we've experienced. So that's really good that you're being very observant with just even that of like, hey, how can I educate myself in certain areas where I might not be as strong, or I've seen other people struggle in those areas that I don't want to struggle in. But we can find Andy a girlfriend, maybe. I mean, we
When he's 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 19. He don't need a girlfriend right now.
30.
Yeah.
We need him to do this podcast.
Yeah.
Selfishly, you can't date anybody. So here, that's my convictions. Yeah. Andy can't date.
You need time to do the podcast.
Right. That's what he's saying.
He's building discipline. Let him figure out let him work on his finances.
Yes.
Let him build character. Let him clock in and out of a job long enough. Let him build great male friendships.
Yeah.
That'll sustain you when you meet that girl one day. You know, like there's a lot more stuff that can go down. So,
and they have to go through a vetting process with us anyways. So
yeah. Don't do it, Ashley. Most of them don't last. No. Pick someone more friendly. That's like Erica or Sanaz or something.
Not even Erica. Erica would be like,
Erica would be like, you suck. All right, everybody. God bless. Peace.
Bye.